And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J. Rod. In this episode, indicators of malicious activity. Let's tap in. And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J. Rod. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a cybersecurity professor that loves to help students pass the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus exams. And every now and then I do like a history of, modern technology, stuff that's happened before. I've done about Napster. I've done an episode about Netscape Navigator. Those type of history lessons. I like to consider myself amateur historian. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at professorjrod@gmail.com. On TikTok at Professor J. Rod, on Instagram at Professor J. Rod, and YouTube, Technology Tap Podcast is my channel. And welcome to this episode. All right, so we're going to talk about is indicators of malicious activity. This is part of the Security Plus series that I've been doing. So if you're interested in taking the Security Plus exam, this chapter is one that you need to listen to. The system is running. That's the problem. No alarms, no blue screens, no angry users pounding at the door. Just a quiet machine working a little harder than it should. And if you don't know what to look for, you miss it. Today, we're talking about something that separates technicians who react from professionals who detect. Because attacks don't always explode. Sometimes they whisper. Today's episode is all about the indicators of malicious activity. The subtle signs attackers leave behind when they think no one is watching. This is, like I said before, this is part of the Security Plus certification exam. So by the end of this episode, you won't just know what malware is. You know how to recognize it, and even when it's trying to hide. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's tap in. You learn early in IT that broken systems announce themselves. They crash, they freeze, they stop responding. Security incidents don't work that way. Security incidents try very hard to look normal. And that's why this lesson exists. Because CompTIA doesn't want you memorizing malware names. They want you learning behavior. They want you to recognize when a system is doing something that doesn't match its roles. Take malware. Most people imagine malware as something obvious. Pop-ups, ransom notes, blinking warnings. But the most dangerous malware doesn't announce itself at all. It runs quietly in the background. A virus, for example, needs help. It doesn't spread by magic. It attaches itself to files, documents, executables, macros, and waits for a human to click. So when CompTIA gives you a scenario where files are being modified without user activity or applications behaving differently after opening an attachment, they're not asking you to identify the virus. They're asking you if you recognize the indicator. Worms take this a step further. They don't wait for permissions. They spread across networks on their own. And the indicator isn't the worm itself. It's what the worm causes. Bandwidth spikes, systems slowing down simultaneously, networks saturated with traffic that no one can explain. Then there's fileless malware. This is where the modern attacks gets dangerous. Fileless malware doesn't live on a disk. It lives in memory. It uses tools that already exist on the system. PowerShell, scheduled tasks, tools administrators use every day. So antivirus signatures don't catch it. Instead, you detect it by noticing what it doesn't what doesn't belong. PowerShell executing when no administrator is logged in. Register keys that recreate processes after reboot. Script launching other scripts with no clear business reason. That's the indicator. Spyware works differently. It watches. It logs keystrokes. It captures screenshots. It redirects browsers. The indicator isn't the spyware itself. It's the account compromise that follows. Password stops working. Users get locked out. Logins appear at odd hours from unexpected locations. Backdoors and remote access Trojans take control. They phone home. That phone home behavior, that beaconing, is one of the clearest indicators CompTIA expects you to recognize. Regular outbound connections to unknown IPs. Encrypted traffic with no business justification. A workstation behaving like a server. Rootkits go deeper. They hide. They replace system files. They erase logs. They lie to diagnostic tools. And the indicator here is subtle but powerful. When multiple tools disagree about what's running on a system, something is wrong. Ransomware finally breaks the silence. Sometimes it locks the screen, sometimes it encrypts data, sometimes it simply steals resources. Cryptojacking is one of the best examples. No ransom notes, no error message. Just a fan that never stops spinning. CPU usage that never drops. And CompTIA loves this scenario because it teaches you to trust resource behavior, not appearances. For malware, the lesson widens because attackers don't stop at software. They move through the network. They touch hardware. They exploit people. A denial of service attack doesn't look like hacking. It looks like traffic. Too much traffic. And when that traffic comes from hundreds of or thousands of compromised systems acting together, that's a botnet. A man-in-the-middle attacks don't break encryptions. They get between systems. ARP poisoning, fake gateways, intercepted sessions. The indicator isn't the attack, it's the warning signs. Certificate alerts, duplicate MAC address, connections that suddenly feel slower, DNS attack misdirects. You type in the right address, you end up in the wrong place. If you know what to look for, you notice the mismatch between the domain names and the IP address, the difference between expectations and reality. Wireless attacks. Wireless attacks disguise themselves as convenience. Free Wi-Fi, strong signal, familiar names. And suddenly your credentials are gone. Then there are application attacks, quite perversive and devastating. SQL injections don't crash servers, it leaks data. Replay attacks don't steal passwords, they reuse trust. Directory transversal doesn't break authentication, it bypasses it. And the indicators show up in logs. Weird input, unexpected output, errors that shouldn't exist. This is where CompTIA expects you to think like an analyst. Not what attack is this, but what evidence tells me this application is being abused. Security Plus doesn't reward panic. It rewards observation. If you remember nothing from this episode, remember this. Attackers leave clues. Your job isn't to catch the attacker. It is to recognize the story the system is telling you. Right? And, one of the things that I like to tell students is all this stuff scaffolds, right? So what do I mean? If you start at A+, in A+, they talk about malware. They talk about viruses. They talk about ransomware. In Network Plus, they touch on that too. By the time you get to Security Plus, you should be an expert in this stuff. So if you take it in order and you just let it scaffold, right? Let it build your lessons organically. By the time you get to Security Plus, there's a lot of stuff that you already know. Right? I think A+ teaches 50% of Network Plus. And I think it teaches 30% of Security Plus. That's why I get so upset when students want to kind of like jump the line, so to speak. They don't know anything about computers, and they want to take Security Plus. Right? Take A plus. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't people say, I don't want to take A plus. I don't want to do help desk, but that's where you start. Right? You have no experience, and all of a sudden you want to be a cybersecurity analyst, and you just want to, how are you going to know about all this stuff if you don't know anything about hardware? Or how the operating system, the different operating systems that you need to know. Or what kind of cable that you're using. All this stuff, all this stuff scaffold. That's the one good thing about CompTIA, that is scaffold. I'm a little bit worried that with all these changes that's going on, it is going to change. I'll give you an example. I took the Pen Plus exam, and I thought it was going to renew all my certs. It didn't. Not all of them. So I'm a little bit disappointed by that, because before it would, you get a higher one. It didn't matter. It reset all the lower ones. Now they're breaking it off by category, and I'm a little bit concerned that, the private equity firm that bought CompTIA might gut it. Like it's like a lot of private equities do. They go in there and they want to make their money. They want their money back, so they'll go and make drastic changes. Don't invest, just charge more. Maybe the certifications will renew every 2 years instead of every 3 years. Prices for the certifications will go up. They just want their money, and then just get rid of it later on, 4, 5, 6 years down the line. They got their money, and then now they want to cut it loose. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but that's for another episode, I think. But yeah, just start at the bottom. There's no harm in starting at the bottom. I've used to teach a lot of boot camp courses, especially during COVID. And you find, I would do A plus, Network plus, Security plus, and sometimes I'll have 15 people in a Security plus class, and I'll ask them. This was over Zoom, right? And I would ask them, hey, tell me a little bit about you. And then somebody would tell me, oh, I don't know, I did floors. I hate putting floors. That's my job. I want to go into security. And my friend or my brother-in-law told me to take Security Plus. And I would say, but why didn't you start with A plus? It's like, no. He told me to start at Security Plus. And I would tell them, there's an assumption that you know some stuff about IT at this level. Right? And they were like, yeah, I fix computers. Then I would tell them, look, this class will start at 10. I said, when we go to lunch at 1, if you find this too difficult, come back, let me know, and I'll tell the school to put you in the A plus class. A lot of people will do that. I once had a class that had 10 people, and it was 4 weeks on Sundays during COVID, that by the 4th Sunday, I only had one person. Because everybody else dropped out because of that, because it wasn't my teaching or anything, because I had students that would stay for the whole 4 weeks. It's that they think that I'm going to teach them about, what a cable does or what a CPU does. No, that's A plus. Right? People who take Security Plus, there's a sense that, especially boot camps, there's a sense that something. You're not coming in cold. But some people want to do it. Some people think that they can do it. But anyway, that's my advice, right? You want to start at the bottom, scaffold up. That's really the right way to, in my opinion, the right way to do it. But I've only seen one guy never take a computer class, wanted to take security class. Actually, I know 2 people who didn't do computer. One is a lady, a young lady. She wanted to go to IT. Something happened in her department. She was a temp worker. They wanted to hire her full time. And the guy who she worked for, he retired. So they were like, oh, we could put you anywhere you want. And she said, I want to go to IT. And then she went and took the Security Plus class exam on her own. She studied on her own. And then she took the A plus with me, and she passed. And the other interesting thing about her is that she took the A plus, didn't do any of the PBQs. and still passed. And another one was a guy who took my Security Plus class. They didn't know anything about computers either, but he had a job. Like it was like a Tuesday. It was like Tuesday, Wednesdays, Saturday, Sunday was the class, right? And then after the Wednesday class, he told me, listen, he goes, I have a job. I don't have a job. He's lost his job, his wife, kids. He has wife and he has kids. He goes, my wife doesn't work. I need this job. I need to walk in on Monday with the Security Plus in my hand. If not, they're going to take away the job. What do I need to do? I told him, I gave him all the PowerPoints, exam dumps and everything. I said, you need to lock yourself in a room for the next 2 days. Take the exam Saturday, and if you don't pass, take the exam Sunday. He got 2 shots at it. So he went and he did that and he passed. But you're desperate, right? You're up against the wall, right? So he was able to do it. You know, not a lot of people can do that. So, and it's, you know, it is what it is, right? If you can do it, you can do it. All right, let's do the questions. The way I read the question, and then I give you the choices, then I read it again, and then we give you the answers. Question number 1. A user reports that their workstation feels slow, but no errors appear. You observe consistent high CPU usage, frequent outbound connections to unknown IP address, and no files encrypted or deleted. What is the most likely cause? A. Logic bomb execution. B. Ransomware infection. C. Cryptojacking malware. Or D. Worm propagation. I'll read it again. A user reports that their workstation feels slow, but no errors appear. You observe consistent high CPU usage, frequent outbound connections to unknown IPs, addresses, and no file encryption or deleted. What's the most likely cause? A. Logic bomb execution. B. Ransomware infection. C. Cryptojacking malware. Or D. Worm propagation. Give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The correct answer is C. Cryptojacking malware. All right. Question 2. An attacker captures NTLM hashes from a compromised system and successfully authenticates to other systems without cracking the password. Which attack technique is being used? A. Password spraying. B. Pass the hash. C. Credential stuffing. Or D. Brute force attack. An attacker captures NTLM hashes from a compromised system and successfully authenticates to other systems without cracking the password. Which attack technique is being used? A. Password spraying. B. Pass the hash. C. Credential stuffing. Or D. Brute force attack. Well, the clue's right there. NTLM hashes. That's the clue right there. So the answer is B. Pass the hash. All right. Question 3. A web application login form returns all user records when the following input is entered. Quote or 1 equals 1 space dash dash. Which vulnerability is being exploited? A. Cross-site scripting. B. Directory transversal. C. SQL injection. Or D. Session replay. I'll read it again. A web application login form returns all user records when the following input is entered. Quote or space 1 equals 1 dash dash. Which vulnerability is being exploited? A. Cross-site scripting. B. Directory transversal. C. SQL injection. Or D. Session replay. I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The correct answer is C. SQL injection, right? Typing it on the login form is what you're getting. And that's what happens. That's SQL injection. Hopefully you got 3 out of 3. Let's go for the last one. Users are redirected to malicious websites even when typing correct domain names. DNS lookups resolve to unexpected IP address and the host file is unchanged. Which attack is most likely causing this? A. Evil twin wireless attack. B. ARP poisoning. C. DNS cache poisoning. Or D. On the path TLS downgrade. I'll read it again. Users are redirected to a malicious website even when typing correct domain names. DNS lookups resolve to unexpected IP address and the host file is unchanged. What attack is the most likely cause? A. Evil twin wireless attacks. B. ARP poisoning. C. DNS cache poisoning. Or D. On the path TLS downgrade. I'll give you 5 seconds. Think about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is C. DNS cache poisoning. All right. Very good. Hopefully you got 4 out of 4. And you did it right. Again, like I said before, by the way, I don't know if I said Happy New Year, but Happy New Year to everybody out there. But like I said before, you know, for those of you who are going to take the Security Plus, make sure that you're really ready for it and make sure that you have taken, you know, A Plus and Network Plus. Not that you have to, but it would make your life so much easier if you did. Because you have, it's kind of like review, right? You do A Plus and then you do Network Plus and then you already know some of the stuff, right? You know what an IP address is. You know the different types of cables. Yeah, Network Plus, you go a little bit more deeper into it. There's more stuff that you go to. There's more router talk. There's more switch talk. But the basics you already know. Correct? Then you go to Security Plus. Yes, they teach you about SQL injections, cross-site scripting, directory transversal, but you know already some of this stuff. It's not foreign to you, and you can find the links. Yeah, this is like this because the website form is not working. This like this because of the RAM. This like this because of the CPU, and you understand that. That's why for me it's important to start at A+. You don't have to go down to Tech Plus. Tech Plus is for like people who want to understand IT but don't want to work in IT. Right? And you always want to have that one person in the department that knows a lot, even though it's not the IT department. That's the guy who should get Tech Plus, not you. Right? If it's a sales guy who's selling PC stuff, right? He should be in Tech Plus. He should have a Tech Plus certification. Right? If you have a marketing person and you're marketing and one of the guys is the head of PC accounts, he should take a Tech Plus course, right? He should be Tech Plus certified. That way he knows the basics. All right. Let's end this. Here's the truth. Most attacks don't look like attacks. They look like noise. They look like glitches. They look like somebody else's problems until they're yours. Security professionals aren't defined by the tools they use. They are defined by what they notice. And now you know what to look for. Next time your system feels a little off, trust that instinct that you have, that you develop over the time as a technician. And as always, keep tapping into technology. I'm Professor J. Rod. Thanks for listening. This has been a presentation of Little Cha-Cha Productions, art by Sarah, music by Joe Kim. We're now part of the Pod Match Network. You can follow me at TikTok at Professor J Rod, that's JROD, or you can email me at ProfessorJRod, JROD, @gmail.com.